watch with Chad. We're to watch with Chad.
My leg! This machine has damaged my leg! Get him!
Welcome, welcome. Today I wanted to talk about bad movies. On this channel, usually I will watch movies, react to them, do the blah blah blah. But this time, rather than We Watch with Chad, with the we being you, it's going to be We Watch Chad, with the we still being you. So, bad movies. I love them. I love them too! Who the hell are you? No friendo. Aren't you just me in a hat and a different shirt? You needed a new character, and you have no friends. Ta-da! No friendo! Whatever, just go in the corner and don't talk. If you're watching this channel, there's a good chance that you like bad movies too. Sure, I watch bangers here. My dad and I are watching some of the best movies of all time. But there is also a deep and abiding love for glorious, delicious trash. My group, Ross, the Royal Order of Shit Shows, has been meeting for years, long before I had a YouTube channel, to enjoy the worst in cinematic entertainment. 4 hours of mental beatdown per month is kind of the price of being my friend, and some people pay more than that. Now, I'm not staring at you from cyberspace to talk about regular bad movies. I'm not going to be here talking for insert video length here about the Transformers.
I am directly below! The enemy scrotum!
No, this is about the movies that are so bad that they loop back around to being good again. Their very ineptitude or crapitudinalness brings a certain charm. I'm also not here to explain why you or anyone else who doesn't enjoy bad movies should. The why I want to look at here is why we enjoy these terrible movies. Before I jump in, if this is something you enjoy, if you like my content, please think of subscribing to the channel, click the like button. It all helps. Write a comment down below. Feel free to comment about how stupid or great or stupidly great I am. It all helps. Thank you. If you like bad movies, check out the Ross videos on this channel. We watch some of the worst movies of all time and really have a good time doing it. Ooh, a call to
Don't
action.
Arise, my wives. Give ear to the words of Manos.
Of course, bad movies have existed as long as movies have. For every Dracula, there's a Plan 9 from outer space. And there have certainly been bad movie lovers too. Those people who enjoy a certain cinematic schadenfreude. But one person laughing in a room does not a culture make. You're not a culture. Please stop. It's through the advancement of communication technologies that this community has been able to form. Sure, there were those who would laugh at the pregnancy scare films and drug roadshow pictures that would travel through the towns in the 30s, and even, the Hollywood B movies as well. But those films didn't last long enough to really form a connection with the audience. And I would love to point to some obscure radio program that championed bad movies, but I can't. No, the rise of the bad movie fandom began on television with the horror hosts of the 50s. Packs of low-budget thrillers and horror films were bought cheap by local stations. Eventually, they decided to do more than just use them to fill programming blocks. With a horror host, they could create a series. It was a way to connect the audience and have them coming back week after week in spite of, or even because of, the quality of the films. This allowed them to create a community. The first horror host was Vampira in LA. Her look mirrored the as yet unnamed Morticia Addams from Charles Addams comic strips. She lampooned the movies and did sketches and created a format that those who followed the Curly and others beyond would use pretty much forever onwards. While these horror hosts helped to create a bad movie community, they didn't bring the idea to the mainstream yet. It was the 1978 publication of The 50 Worst Films of All Time and How They Got Made by Harry Medved that moved this niche interest into the mainstream consciousness. The book was rife with errors and it riled up film critics and fans of real movies alike, but it got the author onto morning talk shows with national exposure. Now, the idea of so bad it's good movies was out there. As Medved himself writes in the introduction to his book, he gets a kick out of bad movies, and he's sure he's not the only one. He must have been right, because that book sold well enough to allow him to write other books. He followed it up with the Golden Turkey Awards in 1980 and more in the future. 50 Worst even got its own adaptation of sorts with the film It Came from Hollywood. Fittingly, that film was bad enough to be featured in one of his later books.
I want my money back.
1980 also saw the inception of the Golden Raspberry Awards, or Razzies. This parody of the Oscars started small, but it quickly picked up steam. After 4 years, it was covered by CNN, and in later years, major Hollywood stars like Sandra Bullock even showed up to pick up the awards in person, and she brought a wagon full of DVDs of the movie that won her the award to give out to the lucky audience. And with that, the mainstreaming of the Schadenfreude of cinema was in full swing. Schadenfreude. I feel like there's probably a better word for that. Germans like to take words and put them together to make new words. I just honestly, I don't want to Google it. I don't want to see what the results for Germans enjoying shit is. I don't want to see the results. I don't want them to show up in my search history. I don't want Google to go, hey, this is what this guy's into, and start feeding me ads around that idea. I'm good on that whole thing. And regarding the word Schadenfreude, I will tell you that I looked it up. That's the pronunciation. Google spit back at me. German people roast me in comments. Another major event in the history of the So Bad It's Good movie was the rise of the home video market.
Consider entertainment.
Now, suddenly, people could actually get their hands on those shitty movies they'd only been able to read about before. Well, big studios like Disney and others hummed and hawed about whether they'd even release anything on VHS. Smaller companies came out of the woodwork to release obscure horror, European trash films onto the market. And along with those came the straight-to-video market itself. I remember the first time I saw that pencil crayon cover for Sledgehammer. Even at that young age, I knew that this movie had been lovingly crafted by and on VHS for the VHS market. Maybe for me specifically. Maybe not, but it felt like it a little bit. Now suddenly, just for the price of mowing a lawn, kids could rent movies for their sleepovers like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, Butterfly, Voyage of the Rock Aliens, or something not starring Pia Zadora, if that's how you choose to live your life. They didn't have to scan the TV guide and wait forever hoping that their local TV stations would play The Lonely Lady. They could take their fate into their own hands. And they did. We did. I did. Every weekend, I would try and rent 2 movies a night. Those were my nights to watch movies. I'd have sleepovers if I could. I'd rent movies if I could. I would try and consume everything that was on those shelves. After you'd gone through, you know, the known classics and a few of the really good-looking covers that hid some gems, you'd settle down and onto the lesser known, lesser quality, enjoyably bad things. Elves was one that became a sort of Christmas staple with my friends and I because it was so bad. It probably wasn't much of a Christmas movie. I don't even think the elves were really elves in the movie, but it was something that we enjoyed, and it made the season into a so bad it's good type Christmas. It wasn't just VHS that brought more bad movies into more people's homes. The horror host phenomenon continued in the 80s with Elvira and Joe Bob Briggs.
I need to know the title of the stupid movie!
The introduction of cable television gave these stars a national platform. They had exposure all across the country in a way they wouldn't have before, and they were able to grow a new generation of bad movie fans. And for those who didn't have the stations they were on, who couldn't see them or didn't see them, they released VHS tapes of movies with their hosting segments intact. I know that personally, it's Joe Bob Briggs I have to thank for putting Nude on the Moon in front of my eyes. He's the reason that I know who Doris Wishman is, probably. So, thanks, Joe Bob. Mystery Science Theater 3000 came next. It wasn't a major leap forward for the enjoyment of bad movies, but it was an evolution. Riffing, where you would make fun of a movie while you watched it, was something that people had been doing before in the comfort of their own homes or in theaters if they weren't worried about getting beaten up. Big people who were like, tough enough to defend themselves as they annoyed everyone around them talking during the movie. They were doing this before Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed up.
In fact, The Worst of Hollywood, hosted by Harry Medved in 1983, featured a proto-version of riffing with on-screen text and captions telling the jokes.
But with MST3K, it became something much more mainstream. It exposed it to a larger audience, and now everyone knew that the best way to enjoy a bad movie was to watch it with your friends and make fun of it the whole time. The next big boon to the So Bad It's Good community came in the mid-90s, and it was twofold. The increased popularity of the internet, caused by the increased availability of high-speed broadband, combined with the introduction of DVDs to really open things up. Like the home video market before it, the World Wide Web brought a newer, greater availability of movies. People were no longer tied to the choices their local video store made. With the introduction of DVD, a lot of films that were unavailable for years were popping up again. The copies themselves had been eaten. The players would eat them. Tape rot was a real thing. Time would destroy the tapes. As an unintended side effect, the new digital format allowed for easier, let's call it, distribution of films through file sharing networks. Now, through legal and illegal means, more films were available to more people. It wasn't just the availability of films that changed in this time. Shared interest brought people together across the World Wide Web, and the love of bad movies was no exception. Websites dedicated to discussing and sharing the worst films sprung up all over. Suddenly, the community was connected in a way it had never been before. That's why we should be friends! Yeah, but then you'd have to change your name. Good point. The most recent evolution of bad movie culture is the streaming age, with YouTube being at the forefront of that. The platform began as a place to watch some guy go to the zoo, but it was also very much a gray market for copyright. A lot of people, younger people of the right age, they would have seen their first bad movie on YouTube. And with time, the platform became bigger and those copyright issues were ironed out. But it's still a haven for public domain movies and a growing market of zero budget made for YouTube movies. Just terrible movies. I don't want to go too far into it. It's love on a leash. It's not good, but it's good in a way. Along with the bad movies themselves came the channels that studied and championed them. The first and foremost is probably Red Letter Media. Their work through Best of the Worst and some of their other shows that they have on their channel really helped to bring people into the fandom. And other channels that followed them certainly did the same thing and grew that market, grew that audience. A simple question with an easy answer. One I don't like. A crappy movie. Transformers. Those are all correct answers, especially if you mean all the Transformers movies. I think perhaps one of the most important things when defining bad movies is discussing what they are not. A B movie or a cult movie is not a bad movie. They can be, but that's not what makes them bad. The Evil Dead is cheap, but it's not a bad movie. Donnie Darko didn't do much at the box office, but found a cult audience, and that is not a bad movie. Transformers, on the other hand, ugh. Oh man. In simplest terms, a bad movie is lacking something, or like lots of something, a ton of something, all the something. Low budget is not enough, but low budget and bad acting, now we're talking. Or low budget, bad acting and like bad lighting, yeah, now there's very little chance you're not talking about a bad movie.
They're just children. Stupid children. Without any powers or knowledge.
If one part of the Venn diagram for bad movies is lacking, then another would be passion. When the filmmakers try their hardest and fail, that's when a movie gets fun. If Casey came to bat and like bunted into a double play or was caught looking on the third strike, nobody would care. But when he does that big swing in the whiff, that's when it becomes a memorable story. Nobody gave a shit while making the Transformers, so why should we? Tommy Wiseau's The Room,
Hi, Mark.
that's his magnum opus, and it shows in every frame. The locals who made Troll 2, they put every ounce of sweat and talent, well, like less than an ounce of talent, obviously, into this big movie that came to their tiny town. The biggest difference between a B movie or a cult movie and a so bad it's good movie is what we enjoy about them. A B movie, like say Night of the Living Dead, we're going to enjoy in spite of its flaws. Sure, there is some iffy acting, you know, those secondary characters aren't very good, but we enjoy it. We look past that and we enjoy it for the mood, the atmosphere, the camera work, everything that makes it a great movie. With a so bad it's good movie, the flaws are what we enjoy. Melodramatic readings of terrible lines like,
well, Broadway doesn't go for booze and dope,
is why we enjoy The Valley of the Dolls. Now to address the elephant in the room. Rude. Not you. The question within the community is around those movies that try to be cult. For some, they cannot be so bad it's good. In fact, it's a common complaint among aficionados of the subgenre. If Casey comes to bat, whips down his pants and takes a fastball to the ass, okay, well, no, that would be hilarious. But, you know, if you don't try, you can't fail. And if you don't fail, you can't be bad. Velocipaster is a good example of this wannabe bad filmmaking for me. It's low effort and it does not interest me at all. But there may be an exception to this rule. What about a movie where they're not trying to make a good movie, but they are trying to normalize something bizarre? This could be a way for some for a movie to overcome that let's make a cult movie.
Listen, are you kids willing to stick together and pull yourselves out of a hole? You bet. I've got an idea.
This is something I like to call director fetish. When a movie drips with whatever turns the filmmaker's crank, from feet to torn clothes to whatever, then it becomes an experience. You don't make a movie about ants in a guy's dick hole to make a good movie. But when you include like women sunbathing in the forest under tree cover and genius goth girls in bikinis hitting on the director and other things like this, it can overcome that. It can become something, at least an experience, a cringy experience, an experience that'll make you need to take a shower afterwards. But cringe is funny. And this sort of cringe of somebody, this passion, so passionate about their idea that they put it out there regardless of how much of themselves it exposes, that can be something that will overcome that intentional badness to make something that I would consider deep within the so bad it's good genre. The final part of the Venn diagram is you. You got the lacking, the passion, and finally you. Or maybe not. Some people don't like bad movies, and that's fine. For those that do, what works depends on you. It's up to you how important effort is. For me, the 4-hour, 2-part shot on VHS, Don't Play With Me, is a type of masterpiece and a miracle of filmmaking. The idea that this movie got made the way it did, that effort pays off. There's so much passion in that film. And for some people, that's not enough. A boring movie is a boring movie, regardless of, those elements. And that includes people who are fans of So Bad It's Good movies. They're not going to enjoy those things. They might be just looking for, the bad moments that are funny.
Holy shit!
And the passion or director's fetish means nothing to them. Some people enjoy Transformers as a good movie. One of the biggest draws for myself and others is just how out there these movies are. If you don't know how to make a good movie or just any movie, you're gonna make something different. And I've seen enough movies that what I'm looking for is something different. I don't like product. I mean, I do. I watch product. The latest horror movies or shit sequels, I'm gonna watch those. I watch product that is marketed to me. But like the latest lazy Oscar bait or Skybeam superhero movie, that doesn't tickle my fancy. I'd rather try out Octoman or Dwayne Esper's Maniac than, waste my time on Bumblebee, which everyone says is the best Transformers movie. But the best kick to the groin is still a crotch kick. It's all about the experience, your own personal experience. And one part of that experience that we haven't talked about, but we're going to now, is the social aspect of it. A great movie like The Godfather is going to be something that you talk about with friends afterwards. You're going to get into the horses' heads in beds and sleeping with the fishes and that kind of thing. But a bad movie is something you're going to howl about as you watch it. You're going to call out that VW bug driving the giant spider in the giant spider invasion across the field as you see it. It's something that you will laugh about at the time, but it will also form those in-jokes that you have with friends for years afterwards. I wouldn't know. What? No friendo? All right. Yeah.
No, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Ah!
This is perhaps the biggest question. Can a bad movie be good or great? This is where passion is key. In art, and yes, these movies are art, all movies are art, product is art, passion matters. So yes, Battlefield Earth is art. Transformers The Last Night is art. But only one of these movies was made by people who actually gave a shit. And it shows. The thing about art and our enjoyment of it is that it's entirely personal. It's how we react to it and how it makes us feel that matters. I'm not going to look at Starry Night and count the brush strokes. The first 10 times I look at it, I might not even notice the brush strokes. I'll notice how it makes me feel. I will experience it. And that experience is my own. It's even divorced from the artist's intent. Film is the same way. Sure, Neil Breen made Double Down to show what a badass super spy who was out to save the world with his genius he was. He wanted to thrill with the action and make you think with the plot and titillate you with his taint. But that's not what I got from it. What I got from it was hilarity. Watching him attach a DirecTV dish to the bumper of his car and hack the world with computers that weren't even turned on was awesome. So for me, Double Down is a great movie. Bad movies can be great. It's not even a guilty pleasure. If I like it, it's good. If I love it, it's great. No guilt there.
Yeah, fuck the critics.
No. Hold on. This is not an anti-intellectual rant. Yes, Aggregate scoring sites like Rotten Tomatoes, useless. Scoring films in general, probably useless. But critics and an intellectual discourse on film are not useless. So enjoy what you enjoy. If you don't like bad movies, that's fine. If you haven't tried a bad movie, give them a shot. You might find a whole new avenue of enjoyment. My dream of a better world is more people enjoying Creepies and less people enjoying Dark Side of the Moon, the Transformers, not the Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's awesome. All right, well, if you've got this far, thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and, throw a comment down below. Recommend me a bad movie. Maybe I'll end up watching it, and, I don't know, maybe even do a review or something. We'll see. Thanks for watching. Bye.
We're gonna watch with Chad. We're gonna watch with Chad.